Thank you, Greg. So today I'll be co-presenting with Liane Blyn, and I'll introduce her at the end of my segment. But we really wanted to talk to you today about how we're trying to model a training, a training plan for transitioning students out of the classroom and into the practical setting, so it's not so painful for everyone, for them and for you as strength and conditioning professionals trying to mentor them. So we have been working on an internship curriculum. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. And we want to share that with you and how to transition these students into being able to do more applied things. And hopefully you'll learn some strategies that will help you to do this. So, a key question that I always ask my students at the beginning of every semester. So I teach the strength and conditioning classes in the curriculum at the graduate and the undergraduate levels, as Greg indicated. And so I think they get sick of me saying this, but I keep asking them, why are you in the weight room? Why is the athlete in the weight room? What are you trying to do? And so, because I think they sometimes get off in the weeds and try to maybe mimic everything that's happening on the field or on the court. And so, the answer I want to hear from them, at least the primary purpose of being in the weight room, is you're trying to address, you're trying to improve, you're trying to optimize those physical traits, their performance in a manner that you really can't do anywhere else. This setting is the best setting to do it in. And so I try to keep redirecting them back to that. And I think if they keep that in mind, then they hopefully will be better professionals, because they'll come back to the really important things that they, in their role as a strength and conditioning professional, are trying to address. And so as for myself, I've even used this model or this question, why am I in the classroom? What am I trying to accomplish in the classroom that will help these students? And so here are some of the things that I have come to over my years as an academic. I've really, maybe, I don't want to say changed my philosophy, but I think as an early professor, fresh out of my PhD program, I thought I was the conduit of information. And maybe 20 years ago that was the case. The internet was, just getting going. And so there wasn't as much information as so easily available, and I know it's a good and bad information as well. But so I guess I thought I was the conduit, and so but I've realized that the role has changed. As a professor, the role has changed, and so my role is to focus on the why. So what is the background behind the practical application? Why are we doing this? And then I need to be providing them that foundational knowledge, the basics, the core principles, and that is what is built upon with experience, and experience out in the field, and especially all that practical and applied experience. And so I have learned over the years not to limit this to just book learning. That is really that limits people. And so I've tried to incorporate more introductory level application into the classroom experience. And I think the end result has been students are able to try things out, and I'll go over some of the practical experiences that we're able to do in the classroom, and that should carry over into the setting in the strength and conditioning program setting. And so they're able to try these things out in a lower pressure environment. And I think that's really important because students may have the knowledge, but they certainly a lot of times don't have the confidence. And so, and that can kind of wreck somebody if they have a poor experience when they're, in trying to really dip a toe into the water of applying their knowledge. And so we're really trying to make it a positive learning experience and get them a little bit of confidence, so then they carry that into the actual weight room. And so they're able to try out things in a lower pressure environment. The grade is not as much of an issue, just maybe a little bit of peer pressure because they're putting themselves out there in front of their peers. So those are the things I've been trying to follow. And so here's a few just core principles I go over that really fall into the scientific theory background. So obviously students need to understand those physiological adaptations to physical training. They need to know what should happen, what's expected to happen, and know what to do when things aren't happening, when they're doing their programming. We also go over overtraining and detraining. They need to know when is too much, and they need to know, and that's so highly individualized, but at least they have some knowledge of that. And then, what detraining, what has happened to athletes that have either been off or been injured. And so we do talk about periodization theory, but I really emphasize that it's the 30,000-foot view. It's the framework, it's the scaffolding, it's the bones of the plan, but it's not the same thing as programming. And we do get into some programming, and that's furthered in the actual weight room setting. But I think at this stage, and I'm really talking in this context more about the undergraduate students, the basic program design elements have to be there. It's just like any sport movement or skill. You've got to master the basics before you can move on to the more advanced concepts. So I do really focus in on the basics and then sprinkle in some advanced concepts wherever I can. But another thing is developing their critical thinking skills. And this is probably one of the bigger challenges that anybody faces. It's learning how to critique something, but do it professionally, do it constructively, and do it with the whole end game of improving. And so this is something they struggle with, but I think just this will help make them better professionals when they see what's out there and see that, the positives and the negatives of all the different possible ways you can train. So this is an area, this basic practical application area is an area we've really, I think, changed. If you look at my course syllabus from 10 or 15 years ago, this is an area that's really changed, and I've incorporated a lot more of this into the area. And so, and I know Liane's going to be talking about how, they use this in the actual weight room setting. But, I had to think about what are some areas of practical application that students really need to have at least exposure to before they ever walk into a weight room. And these aren't in any particular order. I think I just kind of did them off the syllabus. But facility design and management. I think just understanding the hierarchical structure of how weight rooms are managed and the roles, the primary roles of the different people involved, all the way from the head strength and conditioning coach down to the intern or the weight room supervisor. And facility design, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more on a later slide because that's one of their assignments. And so we'll revisit that. But special populations, students never know who they're going to end up working with. So I do try to introduce them to some populations maybe outside the athletic population. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think understanding a wide variety of individuals, how to assess their needs and program according to that is very important. So we do a little bit of that. Exercise technique evaluation. This is something that I've incorporated more recently, newer, and I think it's working out really well. I have students draw an exercise out of a hat. They're in a small group setting, and I get another student in the class to be their client, their subject, and I tell them to purposefully mess up the instructions, do it wrong, so then they have to correct them. So, and then the class gives them feedback. So I think just getting that dialogue going about how you can better do something, whether it's teaching or actually doing a movement. So I've really tried to focus on this. Test and measurements. This has been an education because I have them set up tests and measurements and run through them. And just like with very highly trained athletes, they make it look easy. So you watch somebody, it looks easy, but when you have to do it yourself and you mess it up, I think that's been a valuable learning experience, and hopefully that's carried over into what Liane's trying to do in the weight room. And then I feel like a lot of times with these types of classes, if you only have a semester, you're just skimming the surface. But just to introduce them to speed, to agility, change of direction, I didn't write that up there, but conditioning, what makes those different, and just so they know, when they see it, they know then what it is. And then power, we spend quite a bit of time on power. In a weight room setting, especially loaded power is very important. So plyometrics, they set up a plyometric drill and take the class through it. And again, I'm trying to work on their communication skills because as you all know, communication is key. It's how you teach someone, it's how you convey your purpose for doing something. So I'm trying to make them better communicators. And then finally, we just scratched the surface with the weightlifting movements, derivatives, just the technique, analysis, being able to spot very maybe gross errors. We only have a few class sessions to work on this, and I emphasize you're not going to learn this in three classes. But luckily, I usually have in a class of 25 students, I have 3 or 4 students that are highly proficient in these lifts. And so it helps me spread people out, and we work on our teaching skills and just letting them try it. There's so many students out there that haven't even tried these, and so those are kinds of things I'm thinking are pretty important. So just so you see what we do for the facility, I give them a budget, I give them a square footage, and I tell them, look, the room's finished, just populate it with weight equipment. And I have to be specific about this. One semester I had 2 young men that were very ultra endurance athletes, so they designed a cardio-only weight room, or exercise room, I should say. So after I beat my head against the wall, then I've changed the assignment. So to say, look, this is a strength and conditioning class, you must put in weight equipment. So, but they have to, they have to give me a budget. So they have to stick to that budget, and they have to give me, a list of where they got stuff and what they paid for it. So it's just an exercise, but I want them to just get used to doing things and get over their fear of trying something new, because I see that there's just this resistance to, I don't know if I can do that, and I try to make it like a learning experience and not so much about the grade. Oops, wrong button. Program design. I let them dip a toe into the program design water. So a 4-month program, it's just a short training block, but most of them pick an athlete, so I say, all right, you got a plan for some in season, some out of season. Just want to see the direction they're thinking. Some choose to use that special populations and pick a non-athletic individual. But again, it's just trying the first time, just trying these things in more of a lower pressure environment. Again, I mentioned basically how we set up the testing and the plyometrics, but most of the undergrad work it's in groups. I want them to bounce ideas off each other. The graduate students, I make them do everything solo. So they do a whole year training plan solo. They do set these tests and measurements up solo. They design their facility solo. And they have to come up with their budget and propose it as if they were proposing it to an athletic director or a facility owner. So, but anyway, these are just things to give them a taste of what the practical setting's going to look like. So if we come back to it, I guess I like the toolbox analogy. I resist giving students samples of programs and stuff. I may show them something on the slide, but I don't really give it to them. And the reason is I want to give students the toolbox and with as many tools as I can so they can take those tools into the applied setting and be a successful professional. So if they can understand why they're doing something and then, coupled with their practical experiences of understanding how, and that's what Liane's going to be talking about here in just a second, then I think we're doing our due diligence in training these next generation of people that will eventually, join us in the field and even eventually replace us. So, how does this work for you? How do you use this? And I think more and more universities, many universities now have exercise science curricula. More and more are starting to add applied classes, such as a strength and conditioning practical class. And so I think the mechanism is out there. And I think departments may be open to, if they don't already have a class like this, to developing something like this and to tailoring these types of classes to meet your needs, because I get it. You are probably overworked and underpaid as much as anybody out there, and the thought of having to mentor a whole bunch of students that really don't know much, and that just eats up more of your time and energy, and I totally understand that. And so but I think we're trying to work together, and we're trying to ease some of that burden for you. And I think, the talks I've had with Liane about this, we want to train up students and keep them involved even after that maybe semester where they got some practical credit, course credit. And, it's almost like you're training people that will stay with you maybe into a graduate program, or at the very least, you're training people that you can then go recommend to your colleagues at other institutions. And so, departments are usually eager to find places that are willing to take on their students in an applied manner. So I think if you're unsure about how to start something like this, I think reaching out to an academic department that might house, at least an exercise science or kinesiology curriculum, I think it's not going to be as difficult as you think to get this kind of relationship forged. And, I would like to suggest that I am more than open to people contacting me. I will share my syllabus, my PowerPoints, my assignments. I'll share everything because, my end game is I just want strength and conditioning to keep progressing as a field. And the better we train the people that will, lead it in the future, I think that's, the way it's going to be best. So I will transition over to Liane. So Liane Blyn is the Director of Olympic Sports at Appalachian State University, and in the strength and conditioning program, and she's also a member of the women's national powerlifting team. Okay, so very highly accomplished powerlifter. I'm sure she can outlift many of our student athletes. But I'd like to quickly thank the NSCA for inviting me to do this talk, especially Scott Caulfield. He initially contacted Liane and I. The strength and conditioning program, I've worked with many coaches in the 15 years I've been at Appalachian, and my mentors, Mike Stone and Bill Kramer, some of you probably know their names. Dennis Klein, you may not know, but when I was director of strength and conditioning at University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, he was the head strength coach, and he and I worked together, and I learned a ton from him. And then finally, my students, because they're the ones that have kept me honest, so to say. They've kept me needing to be current and kept me needing to find new ways to train them. They continually ask for more, which is, I think, a great thing. So I'll turn it over to Liane.
I guess I'll take that. All right. So now for the fun stuff. So here we got classroom to weight room. Now putting all the practical or all the classroom knowledge into the practical. What are you going to do with your interns? What are you going to do to prepare them? Okay, what are you going to do to get them to help you? Because you're one coach working, if you're working football, okay, you got 20 student athletes in your group. If you're working soccer, I have women's soccer, I have 35 athletes on my roster. How am I going to coach 35 student athletes? We need interns. We need good interns that can mimic you and help you coach in your weight room. In saying that, here's truly what I believe. This is from Mark Watts, and I'm going to read this because I think it's really important when you design an internship program and create an internship program. I've seen way too many times where people have come in, I just go clean this stuff, go set this up, and they don't teach. You as a strength conditioning coach, as a department head, as a strength conditioning coach, assistant, I don't care if you're an assistant, a head coach, you are also there as a mentor to teach your athletes and your assistants under you. They're there to help you become better and make you better. This is one of the most important things that I can say that, and again, it comes from Mark Watts, and I think he's great, done a lot of great things in the profession. As a head strength conditioning coach, the development of your assistants, and I put interns in parentheses because also interns, is a direct reflection of you as a professional. Ensuring that these young professionals aren't only better coaches, but better people because of their experience with you should be a point of emphasis and a point of pride. And I truly, truly believe that. I've been doing this, I've been coaching for 22 years. I started out as a GA at Northern Arizona in 1995. And I have seen a lot of stuff. I've endured a lot of things along the way. And it always comes back to how were you taught, or how were you presented as a person, how people looked at you, how your peers looked at you, and how coaches looked at you. You always remember how people treated you, always. Whether you're a student athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're an administrator. People always remember, hey, that person was great to me. They taught me a lot. You know, hey, they were hard on me, but they taught me a lot and a lot of life lessons along the way. So I think this is one of the most important things to think about when you are creating an internship. Where do you find your interns? So I've just been at App State for a year now. So I've been here, I got to App State in December 5th, 2016, 17, whatever it was. Great program. I came to App. I left the college. I left the private sector. I left the high school sector to get back into the college setting. Looking at, hey, we have a great program. We have an awesome curriculum, an awesome exercise physiology department and program at App State. I get there. Why do we not have more interns that want to come intern with us? Why don't we have consistency or people that want to stay? And there's a lot of reasons, and hopefully we're fixing those reasons. Okay? Where do you find your interns in the application process? At Arizona State, when I worked for Joe Ken at Arizona State, our internship program was phenomenal. We had our students come in. There was a whole process that we went through with them. They had to send in videos. We had people banging down the doors to come to Arizona State. I want to create that process here at App State. Okay? Where do you find your interns? Internally, with Dr. Triplett. We have a great exercise physiology program. Why don't we have more interns? On campus, externally, job postings, NSCA, okay, people are always looking for internships. NSCA, Football Scoop, Strength Performance Network, professional connections. I've been doing this for 22 years. I've seen a lot of people come and go within this profession, and thankfully I've kept in contact with a lot of people. All right, application process. Do you have to take in just anyone? Okay? Do you just need bodies to help you set up stuff? If you're a coach that's just going to need bodies to help you set up racks for your program, whatever team it is, you're doing a disservice. Yes, there's part of that. I will get on the floor, I will clean bathrooms, I will mop the floor, just as I ask my interns to do. But what do you want? Okay? Do you take just anyone? Do you have a video process like we had at Arizona State? Okay? What are your objectives, expectations, policies, and procedures? Teachable moments. Every moment is a teachable moment, whether it's to your student athlete or to your interns. Every moment, with whether you know, at the end of a training session, you break down and you meet with your interns at the end of a training session. Hey, how'd the softball team work today? Did you have any problems with your student athletes? Were you having problems with any of your groups? Okay? Internship complete. Now what? Now what do you do? I'm pretty sure most of you guys in this room have probably done 3, 4, 5 internships that were unpaid. That's the way our field is now. Okay, I did 4 internships unpaid, and that was 20 years ago. Actually, 3 internships unpaid, and that was 20 years ago. In a field, it's good. There's more coaches coming out. It's becoming more saturated, but what are you going to do to set yourself apart? Okay? Our internship goal. The goal of Appalachia State Strength and Conditioning Internship is to provide an opportunity to gain valuable hands-on experience at a D1 institution. As an intern, you will have many different opportunities to work with a variety of athletes from 20 different sports. So yes, we have our Olympic sport side and we have our football side, but still, we all work together. We have 7 strength coaches. We have 5 full-time strength coaches and 2 part-time strength coaches on our staff. And we have a whole bunch of interns, thankfully, that come and help us out. So we have a great staff, but we work together. So one of our football strength coaches, he also does baseball. Football strength coach also does wrestling. Okay, so everyone works together. It's not completely separate. Our objectives, we go over our objectives with our interns. Okay, teaching proper lifting technique, assist with spotting, assist with Olympic sport testing. We do a test every year. It's called Olympic sport testing. I won't go into it, but we have our interns also help us with that. Day-to-day operations, cleaning of the weight room, maintenance, cleaning facility. Okay, there's 8 things up there. Okay, only one of them, or one of those pieces, is assist with day-to-day operations and assist with maintenance of weight room. Okay, hey, I'm all for help clean us up, clean up the weight room, set it up, the whole 9 yards, but shouldn't be the only thing that you're teaching your interns. Computer skills, okay? When I was in grad school, email came out. So I was in grad school in 1995. So all of my interns and my assistants are still way better than the computer with me than I am, all right? So I asked a lot of our interns in terms of computer skills to help me. Initial intern meeting. This year has been kind of a transition phase of getting to know our interns. And our interns has started 2 weeks into the semester. and there was no initial meeting. They had no expectations. They didn't know what they were supposed to do. Okay, I'm here for football lift, what do I do? And then they get yelled at because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, okay? That was on us. We should have had an initial internship meeting to talk to our interns after we hired these people. What are our expectations? What do we want them to do? Okay? So we talk about our rules and expectations. Okay? We have to define their role as an intern. Just like you define your role as an assistant strength coach, a head strength coach, assistant director, you define their roles. Interns, their roles need to be defined. Because just like Dr. Triplett said, you're going to have students that have no idea what they're doing when they come in or what their expectations. Well, I'm here, I have a 75-hour internship that I need to do. I really don't know what to do, and I've kind of been in the weight room, but not really, and I just need hours for my internship. So what are you going to do with that person versus the person that is, hey, you know what? I've lifted, I've competed, I was a track athlete in high school, I was a soccer athlete in high school, and this is the profession I want. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. I want to be a strength coach. I know some things. I've had interns that have come in and said, I know the world, I know everything, and you're doing that wrong. I've had that too, and I think we've all had that. But you need to set your boundaries and talk to your interns about what you want. Be early to everything. We have a 15-minute rule. Okay? Depending on what sport, there's a lot of setup. We ask them to come early. Okay? Two-strike policy. We had an intern this year, fired 2 weeks in. Okay? Fired. Just, oh, you know what? It was too cold. I couldn't ride my bike. Get out. I don't need you. All right? And multitude of excuses. You really don't want to be in this. Okay? Ask questions. I would have interns ask questions while I'm trying to coach a student athlete in a clean or a squat. Wait till questions, wait till the end. Dress code. Okay, now this is on us. One of our interns showed up, okay, Chris, great kid. He ended up being one of our best interns that we had. Showed up in jeans and work boots day one. That's on us. That's on us for not explaining to him, okay? And he was one of the kids that needed to bring in and needed his credit hours, but he ended up being a really, really good intern, okay? He's now going into the service. Doesn't want to be a strength coach, he's going in the service, okay? Working out. Are you there to work out as an intern, or are you there to coach and get experience? We've had interns that have walked in, hey, what's workout time? When are open hours when I can get my lift in? As an intern, got to have those boundaries. Hey, yes, these are our hours. You can come in. You can come work out. Great. Weekly meetings. We added weekly meetings. So every Wednesday, we did weekly meetings. And I think this is one of the biggest things that has helped us out. And I'll go through that curriculum. Weekly meetings have been huge for us because now we can sit down and talk to our interns and say, hey, how did the week go? How did this team do? Okay, hey, I'm going to put you through the trenches. You have to design a warm-up, and we'll go through this. You have to show me how to squat. You have to show me how to do all these things. It's learn by doing. Absolutely learn by doing. Okay, we give them assignments. So our initial meeting, I give them an assignment, something to read. Okay, you'll find a lot of stuff that I put up here from the NSCA, Elite FTS. There's a lot of great practical stuff. There's a lot of great practical. I think sometimes the science base and the science knowledge you get in the classroom is great. I think sometimes our student athletes or our student interns don't understand the practical, the ins and the outs, and what you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm still learning. Weeks 1 and 2. Now, give or take in this whole situation, weeks 1 or 2, okay, we want them to observe. Observe what goes on. See what happens in our weight room. Now, again, we get interns that have a lot of experience or a decent amount of experience to no experience. Okay, again, just coming in. So give or take, so bear with me on some of these. This is kind of ideal world, but as we know, there's a difference between ideal world and realistic world when it comes to coaching and even programming. You know, hey, my program is 75% at X amount, and then coach says, oh no, we have practice. Throw that out the window. So ideal world versus real world when it comes to strength conditioning. Okay, develop your mission statement. We have them develop. What is their mission statement? Okay. Ron McKeefrey, okay, CEO, strength coach, great book, okay, and I tell all my interns to read it, okay, and I know he's in the room, but not a plug, but at the same time, it's a great book in terms of getting your interns to kind of create a principle based, and he talks about principle based versus philosophy based. Principles never change. Okay, so that's one assignment, week 1 or 2. Observe, see what's going on within the weight room, how we coach. I coach different than what my assistant Juan coaches. I coach different than what Coach Mike coaches. Everyone has their own way that they coach and their own genre, I guess, for lack of better words. Week 3, we talk about coaching presence, okay? Coaching presence, and anything on this, I'm willing to share. It's not, again, I'm willing to share, send it to you if you want it. We talk about coaching presence, being fully present with your heart, mind, and body when you coach. Athletes pick up on everything. Athletes know. I had a crappy week 2 weeks ago. One of my basketball guys goes to me, "What's wrong with you?" Because normally I bring energy, okay? We have a great day, okay? I'm always positive, and I just had this awful look on my face. And they're like, "Who peed in your Cheerios?" And that's a term I use a lot with my athletes. And they're right. I brought it to the weight room. I brought what was going on with me into the weight room. Your coaches know it. Your coaches see it. Your athletes see it. Okay? They know what's going on. Your interns see it. They're gonna vibe off of you. Okay? We define it from stepping on the floor. As soon as you step on the floor, okay, you are being evaluated as a coach. So you got to treat your intern or teach your interns that, hey, as an intern, you're being evaluated. If you don't have a good relationship with those student athletes, they may or may not know anything about strength conditioning. They may think that, hey, you're the greatest person. If you come out and have confidence to work with our student athletes, they're going to trust you a little bit more, okay? We talk about, hey, what do you do when you first get on the floor? What do you do when you're working with a team for the first time? How do you present yourself? Do you stand there like this in the corner? Or do you actually go talk to the athletes? Have a little conversation with them. Help them change weights. Do something that you're going to interact with those student athletes, and then they begin to trust you. Because more times than not, our student athletes pick up on things like that. Our student athletes will be like, "Who's this tool sitting here? Who's this guy? What does he know? Why is he working with us?" So you have to teach your interns. Teach your interns because they are a direct reflection of you. We talk about coaching process. Again, another assignment we ask them. Every week we do ask them. When we meet on Wednesday, every Wednesday we do an assignment week to week. So they'll know ahead of time what's going on, okay? Asterisk by weeks 4 and 5, lifting technique. Lifting technique is always, always, always our number one, okay? We always want to ensure a safe environment and great coaching. Okay, we talk about the power lifts, squat, bench, deadlift. We include variations. Okay, great quote by Joe Ken: "Lifting is lifting, playing is playing." Okay, we talk about progressions and regressions. Okay, when there is a bench off, and go back to his quote: "When there's a bench off at halftime, determine your game winner." Then it really matters how many 500-pound squatters you have or 400-pound benches you have. Okay. We talk about power lifts, squat, bench, dead. We include the variations, Olympic lifts. Now, Dr. Triplett, she said, they get about 3 classes where they teach Olympic lifting. As you guys all know, it takes a lot more to teach Olympic lifts to your student athletes, and a lot longer time. Your student athletes, when they're coming in, they learn their skill when they're this big, okay? And then most of them don't lift through the high school, or some will lift through the high school career, okay? We have to teach them. We have to teach our interns to be able to teach our student athletes and teach our interns how do you have an eye or a vision to see what's going on and what's wrong, okay? What is going on to make them proficient in their lifts, okay? Understand, here's the thing. Coaches may have different coaching philosophies. So as an intern, okay, I've learned from some great coaches out there. I've had the opportunity to learn under some great coaches. Every single one of those coaches had a different philosophy when it came, or different philosophy really when it came to coaching, when it came to designing programs. Okay, Joe Ken, 3-day tier system. Okay, I've worked with guys who 4-day split program, Olympic lifting. Oh, we're squatting, we're snatch, clean, pulling, and squatting, push press, and we do that 4 days a week. Okay, so I've learned. One of my first coaches I ever worked for after my grad school. I left before I finished grad school. I went to Nevada, Reno, and it was traditional 3x6, 3x8, 4x10, traditional linear periodization across the board. All right? As you go, things change, different coaches you work for. Okay? I had an intern say something to another person within within a group, well, I don't know how those coaches get their athletes any stronger. They've been with us for 2 weeks. They don't understand, or he didn't understand the big picture. I think he's now understanding the big picture, because there is a big picture. You have to look at long-term athletic development. You have to look at where your student athletes are. You have to look at in-season, off-season. And this intern, who was a thrower at a good university, he's like, well, I did it this way, and this is how everyone should coach, and everyone should write their programs. It's not the way it is. I've competed in powerlifting, strongman, Olympic weightlifting. I don't teach my athletes to be powerlifters, strongman competitors, or weightlifters, okay? You have to look at what your goal is of your program, okay? We talk about high bar versus low bar. We talk about, shin angle, vertical shin angle, positive shin angle on a squat, okay? Neither are really right or wrong, okay? Do what works for you and the athletes that you're working with. For me, I look at individuals. You may have a huge group of athletes, but I look at individuals and say, okay, what are we doing with those individuals? And if I need to make an athlete high bar squat versus a low bar squat because it's a better position for them, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to say, well, my program says it's a high bar squat. And our interns ask all the time, well, how do you want them to do this? As long as you have the same meshes across the board, and as long as you have great communication, it comes down to communication, and they understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. With the weeks 4 to 5, we have them develop a regression for each main lift, okay? How do you start a squat, okay? Do you squat? Do you start out with a body weight squat, a goblet squat, front squat, back squat? Do you overhead squat? Some people start with an overhead squat. Is it right or is it wrong? As long as you have your base, how you want it taught, and you explain and demonstrate to your interns, they should be able to follow suit just along with you. Week 6, we talk about cueing and assessment, okay? What is the intern's ability to explain and demonstrate each lift? Again, you're going to have interns that are going to sit there in the corner, hopefully not, but are going to be like, I don't know how to do this. I'm just getting my hours. I'm really not in the strength coach. I just need to do it for my class. But you want to be able to teach them the basics. But you're going to have way higher level interns that can do a lot of this, okay? Do you know what you're looking for? As an intern, as a coach, do you know what you're looking for? Okay? How do you get your point across to an athlete? How do you fix an issue? What if there's an injury? So we talk about how to cue, how to assess, how to look at your student athletes, and how to work with your student athletes and fix things. Okay? We have an assignment: assess the quality of movement of an exercise and provide feedback. Okay? And then we have a checklist, a checkoff list, which I'll show you in order to explain and demonstrate each lift. Okay? We do the same thing as what Triplett, what Dr. Triplett does. Okay? We give them, pull out of a hat, we give the intern a flaw, and then we give another intern, hey, you got to coach this intern. Now the hard part about it is most of our interns, when you tell them to do something wrong, it's really hard for them to do something wrong. But they get through it. Okay? Some of them are very hard with it. And then when you say, okay, give them a couple points, okay, so you say, all right, you're going to squat on your toes, you're not getting depth, and then go through that motion, and how is this person going to fix that? Okay, me as a coach, how am I going to fix that? So you go up and you give them 2 cues. Some of the interns already know what's going on and how to actually squat, so they then go and do it perfect. So you kind of got to give them a couple times to go through it and say, hey, this is wrong. Fix now. You fix this issue. Now how do you correct this issue that you picked up? So this is a great one. Again, the weeks that we go through on this, they're not always, they jumble around just a little bit in terms of this is our ideal, okay? Doesn't always end up being realistic. Proficiency checklist, okay? This is something new that I'm adding this year, okay, for our next phase. I want to make sure that we go through with all of our interns, okay? Proficiency, start position, middle position, end position, coaching cues. I want to take that intern, whether they're with myself, Juan, or another assistant, saying, hey, you got to teach me how to power clean. You got to teach me how to hang clean. Or we start with the basics, depending on that student intern. Is that intern just coming out, hey, they may just know how to do a bicep curl. You never know. All right, so we talk about the foundational movements and the foundational exercise of which most programs are going to be about. Week 7, we go into warm-ups. okay? One of the best ways or one of the easiest ways you can get your interns involved, okay, is to have them lead a warm-up and to have them get involved with the student athletes. Again, week one, I tell them, hey, you're just observing. You're observing, you're seeing what goes on, okay? If I know your background in terms of your ability to coach, I'll allow you to do some coaching and help out a little bit more. But the easiest way, get them to lead a warm-up, okay? Get them in front, because that's the scariest thing for our interns, some of our interns. I can't do that. Or their coaching voice isn't loud enough, okay? Coaching voice isn't loud enough, or they're too nervous. We've all been there. We've all had it. We've all been there, starting in the beginning, okay? We have them design warm-ups. So we come in next week, talk about our assignments, design a warm-up, okay? How do you properly warm up for training? What's the goal, okay? We have them design a pre-lift mobility, a specific warm-up. Are you going to go do a dynamic warm-up before you squat your guys? Probably not, okay? Dynamic warm-up, we'll go over that. Down the road, create a dynamic warm-up for a speed session, okay? And again, interns that are as early as week one, I'll throw them into the fire. Hey, do some core work, help stretch, help do some post-training stretching with our student athletes. Week 8, injury modifications, okay? Working along with your sports medicine team is huge, okay? I'm also a certified athletic trainer, so for me it's been easy to take athletes and say, okay, I can modify A, B, C, and D. You're in a cast, you have a stress fracture. Interns with no medical background, or even some strength coaches with no medical background, have a harder time doing this, okay? We talk to them, what questions do you ask? Our interns will never deal directly with our sports medicine staff. Usually it's through me, but we also try to get them involved, all right? Is the athlete off season or in season? Okay, we talk about that. We talk about what's your rehab process in the training room. Are the student athletes doing most of it? If they're coming off, you know, a boot off the foot and they're incorporating back into the weight room, hey, let's get you to write a little bit of a program, okay? And you're gonna stay with that student athlete the whole time. And you're gonna stay with that student athlete to see them through their weight room reconditioning process, okay? So we ask them to create, we give them an injury, we tell them, hey, this is your injury, create a workout for around that injury. Week 9, basic programming, okay? Everyone is gonna program different. You're gonna do 3 different internships, 4 different internships, and I guarantee you not everyone's gonna program the same unless they're a disciple of you, okay? We look at long-term athletic development, okay? Over the 4 or 5 years they're with us, every athlete will develop differently. Every athlete, you're gonna have athletes that come in the weight room, and sometimes our interns don't understand this. You're gonna have athletes that come in and they have, hey, you know what? I learned from X and X coach in a private sector. They taught me how to do A, B, C, D. You may have a freshman that comes in that's a better lifter than some of your seniors, okay? So you have to learn how to program and how to design and how to pick exercises. So it's more of a process than just a week 9, one day ordeal, okay? Athletes now specialize, and I think this is one thing, being in the private sector for a while, being at the high school level for a while, I think people don't understand, or hopefully will now, athletes specialize and they have so many weaknesses, and we talk about, you know, oh, injury prevention programs, and if I did this, you know, we wouldn't have so many ACLs. I had 3 ACLs in soccer this year. I feel like crap because I have 3 ACLs. From an athletic training background, I haven't had 3 ACL tears in 15 years, okay? But I had 3 in 1 year. 1 was a re-tear, and 2 had issues along the way leading up to, but they had a history of things, all right? And I think sometimes as a coach, you need to understand where your athletes are coming from, okay? Make a yearly plan, then throw it out the window. It's the ideal world versus the real world, okay? I make a yearly plan. We talk to our interns about this, making a yearly plan, looking at periodized throughout, okay? Looking at your whole year, looking at your 5-year plan, what's going on, okay? Sometimes you're just gonna throw it out the window. I truly believe this, that track and field throwers and individualized sports are easier to program than team sports. Because I have a basketball coach that can say, hey, you know, yeah, I don't wanna lift today. It's the day before a game. Oh, coach, we're doing stretching. We're stretching. No, we're lifting the day before a game, okay? But you have to have that buy-in. Our student athletes, they want to lift before a day before a game. They're fine with that. They're 100% bought in. Okay? Can't take a weightlifting program and plop it onto a soccer team. Okay? Goes back to a few slides back where I said lifting is lifting, playing is playing. Okay? Me, as a power lifter who has a world record bench press at 421 pounds. Okay? You can't take me and put me on the football field and play. Not going to happen. Just like you can't take a weightlifting or a powerlifting program, plop it onto a soccer player and say, hey, this is a program you're doing. Okay? Can't do it. And we've had interns that have come in like, well, I did this program, and this is what I got out of muscle and fitness, and I'm just going to do that. Okay? Times have changed. We have our interns pick a sport, write out an 8-week off-season program, and then present that to the group. All right, almost done. Weeks 10 and 11, speed work. Okay? My speed work influenced by Proficiency Speed School, Martin Rooney. Okay? So we've done a lot of speed work training. We talk about dynamic warm-ups, running mechanics, first step quickness, change direction, top end speed, conditioning, energy system training. Okay? We have to talk about how they apply. Okay? How do they apply? What sports they apply to? Okay? You don't need change direction and a 400-meter runner, but you have to look at how your training applies. Top end speed. Who really gets the top end speed? Track athletes. Occasionally, football player running back for a touchdown. Okay, so you have to look at all those things. Conditioning. Everyone talks about, do we need an aerobic base? Do we not need an aerobic base? People are on the fence. Okay, do you need it? Do you not need it? Energy system training. We talk about conditioning. I do not take my soccer players and do the same running program as I do for my volleyball athletes. My soccer players, way different energy system, way different. Okay. We talk about, for their assignment, create and run a speed session. Okay. Professional development, last couple slides. Resume writing. So these are things that you can help develop your interns. Resume writing. Making connections and making an impression. I got my first job at Nevada, Reno. I sent out, again, before email, before internet, before the whole 9 yards, I must have sent out 60 emails, or 60 handwritten letters to coaches about getting my first job. Or getting my first GA position. I had 2 people respond. Wisconsin Lacrosse and Northern Arizona University were the only 2 that responded out of the 60, and that was 20 years ago in the beginning of the profession. Okay? I ended up getting my first job at Nevada Reno because Mike Jones, I took a professional development trip up to Nevada while I was going skiing. I said, hey, Coach Jones, can I come down and talk to you, have a little powwow and talk about programming and talk about a lot of things? Absolutely. Came down, a year later, he remembered me, called Northern Arizona, hey, I have a job for you. That's why I never finished my master's degree back then. All right, I had a job opportunity. Read, okay? Get your your interns to read. The more they read, the more knowledge, okay? Get them to read, okay? It doesn't have to always be about strength conditioning, too. It doesn't always have to be about strength conditioning. Elite Fitness, there's always, Elite FTS, there's great articles, podcasts, Martin Rooney has podcasts, Travis Mash has a barbell. Like, there's so many different podcasts and so many different things to read and to learn these days. So we get our interns to talk about that. Our future of our App State internship program, we want to grow, expand, and build on the curriculum with our undergrads, even our grads, okay? We want to create a more advanced curriculum for grad students. We want to create a formal evaluation process. We want to allow and require students to receive credit for semester-long practicum classes. This is one thing that Rochelle Ellsworth does at Texas A&M. She has a practicum class. Their students, they can't touch a student athlete as an intern until they go through that practicum class. I think it's a phenomenal thing. You can't touch a student athlete until you go through that practicum class. It's 4 days of training and working out like a student athlete and 1 day in the classroom. Phenomenal. And that's hopefully how I want it to grow for us. Set up Skype meetings, okay? Donnell at the Citadel, okay? They do a lot. He has a great internship program. Mike Kamal at Merrimack. Doesn't matter if it's a big-time school or a small-time school, okay? Keep in touch with students, past students, receive input as to new areas to cover. What was most and least valuable? So have an evaluation process. Ask your interns how much they learned from it and what we can do better. I put up links of interest. Last thing, thank yous. Scott Caulfield, one of my favorite people in the world right here, part of the NSCA. He's been a huge influence for me along the way. We flipped a lot of tires together in the past. Joe Ken, again, huge influence. I got to say thanks to App State, NSCA, Rich McClure, who gave me my first opportunity at NAU as a GA. Mike Jones taught me a lot in Nevada. Mike Putamani at Boston College. And the most important thing on this, every athlete, parent, intern, GA, assistant, and head coach I've ever had the opportunity to work with or connect with, you have all made me a better coach and teacher. Because remember, coaching is teaching, and teaching is coaching. Thank you.